Right. So, welcome to the review of probably the best game Pakistan has had in 2023. It's Pakistan against Sri Lanka. For all those lamenting the loss of Pakistani form and fitness, today is your answer. Today, the Pakistan way showed itself in shining colors. But Zahid and I will unpick whether it was an emphatic victory all round, or was it a classic case of good in certain areas, but certain cracks being tapered over? You can tell us whether we're being too negative as we get into the detail. I've got Zahid with me. Zahid, at the halfway mark, it's fair to say things weren't looking this rosy.
I think we should find a way to share our WhatsApp conversations on this forum, not just at the halfway point. I think it was like 10 overs into the Sri Lanka innings when Imam dropped Mendes' catch. I texted you saying I don't have a good feeling about this. The energy is not there. They're dropping catches, and for large parts of the Sri Lankan innings, it seemed very true because they were smashing it all over the park, and it looked like at one stage they'll get 400 plus. Um, but look, at the halfway mark, even the first 7 overs of the Pakistan innings, there was no chance. I mean, the first 15 overs, I would say there was no chance. And we were just waiting for the collapse to happen eventually. And in very un-Pakistan like fashion, it just never happened. So phenomenal performance at the end of the day. Look, credit where it's due, no doubt. But we have to focus on some things that didn't go right. I mean, I'm a bit harsh, and I mentioned this to you off here as well. In my opinion, it's two, maybe two and a half out of 11 players stepped up. So I think there's a long way to go. Fantastic by Rizwan and Shafiq, but this is by no means. You can take this as a massive, great performance and take this into the India game because there are still lots of issues that need to be sorted. Not
But,
least the bowling, not least the fielding, because someone like India will score 450 if you bowl like that and you feel like that, and you're not chasing that.
yeah, no, 100%. And, I mean, first things first, right? I mean, no game is complete without a Muhammad Rizwan crap. I mean, that guy, whether he's keeping and there's an exaggerated move, whether he's trying to, I mean, it was clearly a wide over his head. He was trying to hit it. But I mean, that guy, it's something else. I mean, he's a warrior. I still remember the 2021 photo of him before the semi-final, in the hospital bed, right? With all sorts of things connected to him. So, I mean, that guy clearly is a fighter. He cemented his number 4 spot, you know. Not that that was in question, but you talk about it being very un-Pakistani like, the lack of a collapse. But let's talk about how quintessentially Pakistani it also is, that your most successful opener leading up to this World Cup has successfully put his matter to bed. That debate of Fakhar Zaman is finally put to rest. He is nowhere close to the 11 and replaced by someone who has just played 8 List A games before this, just to put things into perspective. And I think only his third game internationally in one-day cricket for Pakistan where he's actually opening.
Yeah, and he had there was a period of time where he played T20s and ODIs, and he had 3 consecutive ducks or something like that in a row
At number
against
4.
at number 4, and he's come back from there. Well, the fan army would say that now he should play in place of Imam Haq, but that's a different.
I know. I was
debate.
going to say. I was going to say.
But
I mean, that's a bigger debate to be had. But I think,
but
I mean, Imam's
but for
success
now,
before.
I think that's done. By the way, I'm just going to pick up on your subtle point earlier. You mentioned Rizwan has cemented his place at number 4. Not that was ever in question. I
Yes, I knew
wonder
you were going to
who
bring that up.
I wonder who here questioned Rizwan batting at 4, and I said it doesn't matter. Even if you want him to play at 5, he will play at 4. That's how it is.
I knew you'd bring this up. It's the same person who also kept banging on about Abdullah Shafiq needing to be in the team and Shaheen Afridi starting to look like a club cricketer. But we'll get on to that in a second. Rizwan is a completely different player when he's trusting his offside game. The wagon wheel again today was a lot more balanced. Yes, there's a slight preference for the onside, but his offside play was excellent today. Right? It's only when he starts getting into this mental block that he just wants a release shot on the leg side and he gets obsessed with that, that he has that chance of getting out, right? Um, it's clear that today was the Rizwan that we want to see, the all-round player that we know that he can be. So now hopefully that gives him confidence. And look, classic, good old Pakistan, 20 for 2, and then the middle order stalwarts saving the
Yeah,
day. I mean, this is as old-fashioned as it could get.
but anyways, well, the two specific things I mentioned about Rizwan's innings actually is one, look, that six that he hit, I think it was Villalage when he hit a six and he like collapsed to the ground in cramps or whatever. But that shot was phenomenal. That inside out.
Amazing. Yeah.
That's again a very un-Pakistani type shot where you inside out for six, uh, to a left arm spinner. And he never, I don't remember him even once playing that pickup shot that he plays on the onside, which is his standard go-to shot. He had a couple of good pull shots for six, but I don't remember him playing that his escape release shot, which again shows that he's got more to his game. But I think we should also focus on some not so good bits in Pakistan's performance.
And the first question I'm going to pose to you, Zahid, is a question we were debating about before it got trendy on Twitter or X or whatever you call it, right? It's Shaheen Afridi's sudden loss of mojo, his sudden loss of form, whatever you want to call it, starting to look a bit amateur and a bit like a club cricketer when he doesn't get that prodigious swing earlier on. He's quite toothless around the wicket, but was today worse than it's ever been?
I think it's the worst that I've seen him, to be honest. Look, okay, before we get to Shaheen, well done Hassan Ali. I don't think we'll discuss him in a lot of detail, but he did really well. I think we can safely say hands up that we kind of got that wrong in our previews. So well done Hassan Ali, although he did go for runs, but so far he's been the best pace bowler consistently for Pakistan. Harris has been up and down. Now Shaheen, look, a few things I'd mention. One is, look, obviously historically he's gone for runs in the last 2-3 games, but he still had the odd ball where he's hit 140, 145. He's got the pace. Okay, he's wayward down the leg side. But today I think it was 129, 130, and still he had a few down the leg side or not hitting the stumps. I got the feeling he thought that he's playing in England, overcast conditions, and it's a green top, and he's been asked to just hit the deck and let the pitch do the rest. And this was anything but, where he was bowling that length, and it just wasn't happening. Look, I think maybe he saw what Jansen did to the Sri Lankan top order, where he got Pereira and Nisanka out, bowling good length, top of off, top of middle kind of deliveries, which came back in. Maybe that's the length he was trying for, but he was bowling 15, 20 Ks slower, and it just wasn't happening. Now, I don't know whether it was an injury or what is it. It just seemed really, really off, and he just had no threat, and that's the problem. When you lose that pace, if you don't have that, seam or swing, like someone like a Glenn McGrath or a Mohammad Abbas in his prime, or Mohammad Asif, who weren't express pace but still had that control with their wrist movement. Shaheen doesn't have that. He has to bowl with pace. I mean, when you don't have pace or movement, then you end up looking like a club bowler. There have been some interesting memes going around about his form and his marital life, but let's stay out of that. But
all I'm going to say is we picked this up before it became fashionable on Twitter. But the one point I just want to talk about is the fact that around the wicket, he is toothless. It's very rare that you've seen him actually be threatening consistently. He's very wavered. And the fact that he came around the wicket in his second over, his third over,
yeah,
is just mind-boggling, right? Now, to be
fair,
fair,
that's waving the white flag that he's just
exactly. I mean, to a batter, it's like, okay, so there's no swing, there's nothing, it's defensive immediately. Also, look, let's be honest, the two drop chances were off his bowling. Right now, had one of those stuck, the quintessential thing that happens to a fast bowler, you find your rhythm, you you get your tail up because you got a wicket, the confidence translates into results. Perhaps. But
Yeah,
I just think for him, it's consistency, right? Whatever
agreed.
you choose, whether you want to go bowl fast or whatever, you've just got to be consistent and you've got
Agreed.
to make sure you do the basics, right? But that's
Right.
Shaheen.
Yeah,
I think you
let's.
mentioned Hassan Ali. I just want to just touch on Hassan Ali because I think, and look, Hassan Ali is still one of those bowlers. It's impossible to understand how he's going to perform on a given day. But what's proving quite good from his perspective is this time you notice his speeds. He, whenever he's over, he's not express pace, but whenever he's over 130, close to 135, that's when he troubles batters. There are occasions when he drops below 130 to the 120 mark and he gets walloped, right? So it's about keeping that pace. And secondly, I think this time he's realized that, he has to bowl within his means. He's not looking for the magic ball. In the past, there will always be a hit me ball every over. But this time he's bowling his cross seams, his
Yeah.
seam up, even if with the new ball, you know, because he knows that that's his strength. It's almost like Liam Plunkett,
Yeah.
England 2019. It's not
Yeah.
the glamorous role, but if you do it well, it's very effective. And that's what he's doing right. He's just
Yeah.
doing the little things that he does well.
Yeah, no, I agree. Look, he's probably been the best of the lot, and that brings us to the one and only Haris Rauf, who I think we have some differing opinions on, but I'll let you start.
Look, I thought Haris Rauf bowled very well today, actually, contrary to what his figures suggest. It's one of those days, and I think that's why cricket can be quite harsh on a bowler, where, he missed the bat so many times. He had some deliveries that the batter was completely clueless on. And look, here's a guy who bowls express pace. The role is very clear. You need to pick wickets. Even if that comes at the expense of runs, so be it. But you have to be attacking at all times. Everyone, there was a 20-run over, which is most expensive in ODI cricket today. But actually, I didn't mind that over because he was clearly trying something. He was bowling short to Mendez, trying to get him to miss time a pull or a hook. It's just that the batter was up to the challenge. And you just have to give the batter credit. But the good thing is he tried. He was trying. It wasn't on autopilot. He was trying to get the wicket. He was bowling. 12 runs is nothing if you get Mendes out, right? And then he went for the Yorker, which got drilled down the ground, missed his length slightly. But the only complaint I have is mid-on wasn't straight enough. If you know the Yorker's coming, mid-on needed to be straighter. I mean, he was wide.
And it's very obvious if you've bowled a bouncer, you hit for six, then you're going to follow with a full delivery. So the batsman was expecting it. And yeah, he got driven straight back down the ground. So maybe a bit of thinking we could have bowled a slower one. But anyways, that's
Fair
getting
enough.
into a lot of detail.
But the last 10 overs were brilliant, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, and that's where Haris really came on, right? Yes, okay, he didn't pick out too many wickets barring his last over, but honestly, I think that's the difference. That's where we actually won the game.
Yeah. No, look, it's weird to say in a 340 run chase where the team batting first is 30 runs short, but I think that's where it was. They scored 115 in the last 20, 60 in the last 10. At one point we thought 375, 400 easy, and that probably proved to be the difference. Harris gave away one run in his last over, 1 or 2 runs in his last over. So yeah, I mean, I completely agree that it's his bowling at the end definitely pulled things back. And look in the grand scheme of things, 2 for 64 in 10 overs when the run rate 7 is not that bad. But slightly one last mention on Pakistan's bowling. Mr. Shadab Khan, where does he go from here? Didn't get the chance to. I'm surprised he didn't come into bat to finish the game off. He would have gotten a 10 not out just to boost his confidence.
And cemented his place. Look, it's the age-old question, right? Where, do you pick bowlers based on their batting, right? I've resorted to this because I don't think Shadab has done enough with the ball, right? Yes, he got a Tukka wicket. Okay, it was an absolute Tukka wicket. He wasn't building any pressure. Neither he nor Nawaz, for that matter. In fact, I thought in some pockets Nawaz was better. But in any case, given your complete lack of penetration in the middle overs, you can't pick your spinner based on his batting. I mean, it's too late now. We know that Shadab is going to play the India game because it's too. I mean, poor Osama me to bring him in for for what could be the mauling of his life. But now Shadab will play. I have been saying Osama Mir should have played against Netherlands. He had excellent warm up games. He's probably wondering what he's done wrong. Other than
Yeah.
not being not having the clout that Shadab has. But
Yeah.
I
Look, a
guess, look,
couple.
it's one of those things.
Yeah, look, a couple of things I'll also mention. Look, actually, probably our best spinner, if you look at the figures, was Iftikhar, who was treated with respect.
Yes,
And because
a
the thing
lot
is,
of respect.
because he bowled wicket to wicket. He didn't try for that magic ball. The problem with Shadab and Nawaz, and this is the difference. Look, okay, Pakistanis play the spinners, Sri Lankan spinners really well, but you look at the shots that Shafiq had to play against Velalage, where he had to step out and hit them for sixes, or he had to play the sweep. That's where Pakistan got the runs. Look at Sri Lanka. All they had to do was play that cut because the balls were there for them to hit. It's not that the Sri Lankan spinners bowled that badly. It's because the pitch was good and the Pakistani batsmen were able to play those aggressive shots. For the Sri Lankan batsmen, they didn't even have to try to do that. Shadab kept bowling two short balls every over, one outside off, one on the leg
Leg
side for
side bang. Yeah.
and then that cut for four. So it's not that the batsmen are really playing out of their skins to hit you.
And look, just thought for Sri Lanka, right? I mean, I thought Mendes was phenomenal. Like,
Absolutely.
it's just a shame that he ended up on the losing side again. And it's one of those, they've ended up with two losses out of two. And both games, they've been terrific in one suit.
750 odd runs conceded, 760 odd runs conceded in 2 games.
Two games.
And
And
you've
you
got
wonder
this.
what's wrong, right?
Well, what's wrong is about the star bowler, the man who's grown under Dhoni's tutelage, Mr. Dhoni Rana, who's coming in and he's bowling
That guy.
10 overs for 95, 9 overs for 90.
I mean, it was absolute carnage. When he used to come in, there was not a single moment when I thought, like there was any fear.
I like
You
how
know,
Dhoni fans find a way to make this relevant about Dhoni, right? Oh, he did so well. Now I'm starting to wonder whether they won the IPL because he was in the team or despite this guy being in the team. But
in fairness to Dhoni, I think Dhoni was made it clear at some point. I heard that his view was this bowler was always a T20 bowler rather than a one-day bowler. But the way he's bowling, I'm not sure he's any format bowler. You know what I
although
mean?
I think to be fair to him in the Asia Cup against Pakistan, he was expensive, but he took 2 or 3 wickets. The problem also was, and this is another thing for some people who are saying Pakistan should drop a seamer and play Osama Mir, is when you play two frontline seamers, you had Shanaka, who is kind of their supporting seamer, you just have no fallback option, and you end up, with if one of your two fast bowlers has a bad day, this is what ends up happening. So I think for Patirana, if he needs to bowl, he needs to be part of a three frontline seamers. You can't go with that, and same with any other team. I think even though the conditions might favor spin, you need to have three genuine fast bowling options. Otherwise, one of them has a bad day, and then that's it. You're done. You end up conceding 90, 100 runs.
And then just a thought on the two best friends. What were coming into this tournament as the two linchpins of our batting, Babar and Imam. Imam, I think, has become a bit unfit. I was watching him. I think he's putting on a little. He's not moving as easily, and those these things matter. I don't want to be harsh, but I feel fitness is a point there. I think and he's made the most comments about Hyderabadi biryani, so I'm not sure whether there's a link
His
there.
he dropped Mendes' catch. He did take his catch as well, but which was a good catch at the boundary. But he did drop him, which cost
With an
Pakistan.
exaggerated dive, I think you'll
Yeah,
also agree. Yeah, it was a classic Imam Mulhaq. Oh, and fall. Yeah, that's something I used to do, except I used to drop the catch. But anyways, but the point is, Babar Azam, right now, quality player, but somehow he's not quite stepping up on the big stage. Now, you could be positive and say that means he's due for a big one against India, but and certainly he has the potential to do it. But has he lost his way a little?
yeah. I think maybe it just seems like he's a bit too scrambled in his head. I mean, getting down the leg side just means you're not concentrating. You're just not there, in your mind. We've seen it happen to the best of them. Joe Root struggled a lot, a few years ago. when he was out of form with that same shot. So maybe it's just a case of, I don't know, maybe seeing these two, Shafiq and Rizwan bat, makes him realize that the burden of the whole team is not on him. There are the people who can carry that, so he probably can bat a bit more freely. And that's
I
the only
totally
way.
agree.
I
I
don't think.
totally agree.
Yeah, I think he just needs one or two innings, one shot, which will get him going, and I think that's all it is. So I wouldn't be too concerned. And if he trusts, the rest of the team, I think it should be fine. And also his captaincy overall, I think, look, he tried to do things differently, where he's tried to keep the seamer, the spinner combination. He didn't kind of let the batsman settle. It's just that
Yeah,
the execution was poor by the bowlers, and you can't
exactly.
really blame him all the time. But look, at least he was trying to do things. And look,
Exactly.
I mean,
Today, I give him full marks on captaincy because he was trying. He brought Harris back as soon as they got, uh, you know, the second
Sanka,
wicket,
yeah,
and Sanka out. So he was trying to like,
yeah,
he was sensing moments better. You're only as good as your bowlers sometimes, right? Bowlers
exactly.
weren't that great, but the thing with Babar is, I do think his captaincy is affecting his batting. Right, World Cup, big stage. Same thing happened in the T20 World Cup in Australia where he lost his form. I
Yeah,
think, and when you're chasing a big total, the fear of losing when you're captain just creeps in a little.
agree,
It's what happened
agree.
against India in the Asia Cup, perhaps also. Just the fluidity was missing.
Yeah.
But
So
speaking of captaincy and all, the toss, do you think Sri Lanka made an error by
uh,
batting first?
in hindsight, yes. Surprisingly, Babar actually said he would have bowled first rather than always following what the other captain said. Um, in hindsight, yes, because again, chasing on in Hyderabad under lights, it ended up being easier. But I guess Sri Lanka having that mental scarring of what they went through against South Africa, maybe that was playing on their mind. They didn't want to bowl again and get hammered. So maybe they're like, look, they'll put runs on the board against Pakistan. It's not a bad strategy, to be honest, because Pakistan are known to crumble under pressure. So from their point of view, if they wanted us, you would have told them you're going to score 344, they would have taken
They
it.
would
So
take it.
I wouldn't go in that much into detail, to be honest. For Pakistan, look, Pakistan were 37 for 2 in 7 overs. If Pakistan were batting first, they would have gone to 275 and they would have thought this is a really good score. They would have been so happy.
That is
And
so true. That is so true. That's a classic Pakistan thing. Just 270. And you can imagine Babar saying, yeah, 280, 285, 280 winning. And then we
yeah,
meander to 274 and then get decimated in like 35 overs. But, you know, it's so true. And sometimes I feel, and now moving on to the India Pakistan game,
yeah,
it's a bit of a dilemma for Babar because on one hand, you've done such a good job chasing. And to your point, it's perhaps better to chase because that's the only way Pakistan get forced into thinking
yeah.
of accelerating from time to time. You just it's easier, I suppose, when you're chasing. You don't have to set a target, but at the same time, knowing Babar, Colombo, the nightmare of those 2 days in Colombo will be playing on his mind, right? Like we chose to bowl. We had 350 to chase, and the pressure of an India Park game, this time in a World Cup, with the 7-0 hanging over our heads. You
130,000
won't you
people in
won't
the
be,
stands.
and 100,000 of which probably 99.9999% will be Indian. You
Yeah.
won't fault him for being swayed into batting first. But what's your take on it?
Look, I would, if it's all things equal, flat pitch, which is what we think it's going to be, I would field. You saw the England New Zealand game, how easy it became to chase. The thing with India is even if you score 340, 350, they're strong enough to chase it. So I would back Pakistan to bowl first, maybe get an early wicket or two, put the brakes on, and hopefully make sure they restrict India to under 300 because otherwise it's going to be very very difficult. So I would
And
chase.
a due, and due, right? I
Yeah,
mean, I think Ahmedabad has due.
yeah,
I think we saw a bit of that against New Zealand,
yeah.
or England against New Zealand, and yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I
Just
agree.
just just just
I
just before we finish
I
off,
would go first.
I think we should quickly mention a lot of our friends. We mentioned India. A lot of friends on Twitter or X would have had to delete a lot of tweets from their drafts at the halfway point. They would have written tons and tons of tweets. I'm not going to take any names, but the shots were being fired at halftime. Some, those subtle digs at how good Sri Lanka have been and how poor Pakistan's bowling has been, and this person needs to step up and that person needs to step up. and how Pakistan's existence in this tournament is under question. I wonder how many of those draft tweets would have been deleted
Absolutely.
and replaced by "Well done, Pakistan, congratulations," blah blah, two sentences, and that's it.
A thought of the Hyderabad crowd also like really came out, in large numbers. So that's great to see.
Yeah,
But look,
absolutely.
there you have it. Pakistan 2 out of 2. And we couldn't have asked for a better lead up to the India Pakistan game. All things said and done. And let's hope we live up to expectation on Saturday, or exceed expectation, because there are not many expectations over here in Gully to Gully. But anyways, look, we look forward to speaking to you ahead of the India Pakistan game. Until then, enjoy the rest of the World Cup in the interim, and we'll see you again shortly.
Thank you.